What's going on, cool betters? As always, Pat Gregoire, joined by Andrew Hustler Paterson. And yes, believe it or not, it is the last major of the PGA Tour season, and we're ending things off with the Open Championship. You want to call it the British Open, the Open, whatever it is always one of the best tournaments of the season. Huss, thanks for coming as always, and how's it going, buddy?
Patty, I'm fired up, dude. I can't wait to get this going. And the weird thing is for us here in North America, and very important to remember this when placing your bets and getting your fantasy lineups and DraftKings, whatever you're doing, tee off is going to be around midnight on Wednesday. So govern yourselves accordingly. You're not going to have, you can't come back from the bar at 2 a.m. and do the lineups. They'll have already teed off. So that's why we're doing it a day early today. We'll give you a good 24 plus hours to get your bets in at Coolbet Canada and get ready to rock as the best in the world chase the elusive claret jug.
Yes, absolutely. So obviously everyone's chasing the claret jug this year at Royal St. George, but you can win something as well. So if you quote tweet, retweet, or share this on Facebook or share the YouTube stream to any of your social media, you'll be entered to win a $75 cool bet bonus. And you can use that however you like. It just so happens it will be ready right in time for the Open. So maybe you take our advice, take some of our picks, or maybe you tail us and use that $75 to go against us. Doesn't matter. But if you do this, you enter to win. All you got to do is retweet or share. So let's get into things quickly. We always like to start with the outright odds. So Huss, let's take a look at what they are right now at Coolbet Canada. Jon Rahm coming off a big victory, of course, at the last major at the U.S. Open at plus 900. Brooks Koepka shortly behind at 7-1. Xander Schauffele at 19-1. Jordan Spieth also at 19-1. Justin Thomas at 22-1. Rory McIlroy at 24-1. Tyrrell Hatton, a Englishman, at 32-1. Patrick Cantlay at 34-1. Bryson DeChambeau a little bit higher on the odds boards than we're normally used to seeing. And then Louis Oosthuizen as well at 34-1. So before we get into our outright picks, or I guess maybe it could be on your card, but we'll start with Jon Rahm and seeing that number really low once again. Obviously, we know he's playing some of the best golf we've seen him play ever in his career. But like I asked you last time, even though he did win the U.S. Open, both of us had a consensus. The juice was just not enough for us there, or it was too much juice. Are you staying away from Rahm here? Or are you going to maybe make a play here?
You know what? I am going to stay away. And this essentially, and listen, it would have been smart to, hold your nose and pay the price for Rahm at the U.S. Open because he ended up holding the trophy and winning the whole thing. But, listen, when I get into these things and we kind of dig deep and figuring out where the value is on the board, at the end of the day, if you're picking outrights and you think Jon Rahm is going to win, pick him to win. It's just so difficult in these fields to count on one guy to blow away the field. And certainly that's what these odds suggest. It was incredible. Just quickly on the line movement at Coolbet over the last few days. Rahm was as low as 8-1.
Yeah.
Then he was at 850, and now he's at 9. So it seems like money's coming in on some of the rest of the field. But what's really interesting is that I want to say 2 days ago, Koepka, Xander, Spieth, JT, Dustin Johnson, and Rory McIlroy were all at 20-1. They all had the exact same numbers. And we've sort of seen where the trends are going over the last couple of days in that Brooks went to 19 to 18. He's now 17. Xander Schauffele and Jordan Spieth have, come down from 20 to 19. And then we've seen a bump up on Justin Thomas and significant moves. I mean, from 20 to 24 is significant for Rory McIlroy and Dustin Johnson. And a little surprising considering the track record that those individuals have in majors, where they are in the world. But listen, I think it's not as much betting against Jon Rahm, but I think that some of these other super elites are providing much better value, shall we say, than Rahm does. But listen, if you think John Rahm's going to win the tournament, bet him. I think when we get into the picks, I'm going to stay away because I think there's a couple other players that have just as good a chance to win that'll be paying more than twice what the Rahm number is right now.
Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into your outright. So we'll take a look at who you think has a good chance to hoist that claret jug at the end of the weekend.
No one should be surprised when you see me ride with Brooks Koepka in the major. And his track record at the big events is well documented. And he's also playing some really, really strong golf as of late. I mean, many of our worries about the injuries that he was coming through, I think for the most part, at least from my perspective, have been abated. I have absolutely no doubt that Brooks Koepka will be challenging for this claret jug. And I mean, he's battle hardened. He's tested, and unlike maybe anybody else on the PGA Tour, he rises to the occasion. And I know we think of Brooks as an American golfer. Maybe these guys aren't as suited for the British Open. Let's not forget that Brooks Koepka cut his teeth and his path to the PGA Tour was playing in Europe. So, I mean, he probably has more experience playing these sort of tracks. And listen, the guy's been great in the British Open before. And then there's the whole motivation. I mean, Brooks is the ultimate big game hunter. He missed out last time and saw John Rahm raise that trophy. And, I really do think that there's just a special mental edge that Brooks Koepka has over most of the rest of the field that helps him in these big events. So I got him on him at 20 earlier this week. And it's been interesting to see, this number sort of come down. I didn't think that Brooks would kind of separate himself from the rest of that group, but certainly there's a lot of people that are sort of feeling what I'm feeling right now, that, if you want a guy that you can pretty much count on that's going to be in the hunt on the back nine on Sunday, to me, it's Brooks Koepka, and I don't mind paying 17-1, 18-1, or, if you're lucky, 20-1. We'll see what happens in the next 24 hours. I have a feeling, though, this is not going the other way. If anything, with the momentum that I think people have on Brooks, this might get to 16 or 15. So I think now's the time to get on Brooks Koepka. Rory McIlroy is the other one of the super elites that I will have on my card. 24-1, I think, is great value for Rory. We've seen him sort of turn around this year, get back to winning and contending in regular PGA Tour events. But as we know, it's all about the majors for Rory. He's a former claret jug winner, although it has been a little while. And I mean, listen, a guy from Ireland, I know he's been playing primarily on the PGA Tour in the United States. But this is a guy that grew up on these sort of courses and really is made for an event like the Open Championship. And I think that Rory, going through what's happened with his growing family and being married and have a baby, I think that was maybe something that I don't want to say it held him back, but there was a lot of other things on his mind. Getting back overseas, playing in the Open Championship, which is such a special one to Rory, I think, it will be a positive for him. And at 24-1, looking at the other players in and around that, I mean, I could make an argument for some other guys. I mean, there's a big group of top players in this group, but you can't bet them all. So Brooks is my number one guy. And of those top players, I like Rory McIlroy. Then we move down the list looking for a couple of long shots. And I'm a big Cam Smith guy. And listen, at 74-1, I just could not help but, like the value on Cam Smith. I really feel that he is due at some point over the next couple years to become a major champion. And the Aussies, it's different. I mean, they're not from the North American style of golf, and they're not from Europe, but more often these guys have played all around the world. And I think Cam Smith has one of the most well-rounded games that, if his putter's going, his iron play is certainly elite. He can drive the ball pretty consistently, which I think is going to be important. And the other thing is, and this is going to be so key, what really will be the difference, I think, from, being guys right there on Sunday or maybe being a few shots back, is how they deal with the adversity. And this is part of the reason that goes back to Brooks, why I like Brooks so much. He can make a mistake. He can get out of trouble with the best of them as well. And that is going to be very important. But he's also able to bounce back and almost be motivated from tough holes, and as opposed to being freaked out and going the other way. So listen, Cam Smith's getting on my card at 74-1. And the other guy, and this has nothing to do with course history, majors history, or everything. It's just a straight up value play, is Harris English. Harris English is the number 12th ranked golfer in the world. official world golf rankings. I mean, he's sort of quietly done it, but he is right there playing, with the top players on either tour. So to have Harris English so far back at 74-1 behind so many players, listen, based on what he's done this year and where he is in the official world golf ranking, this number should probably be half that. So,
yeah.
And you know what? It's funny. I remember back to the Masters when Danny Willett won, and my pals Mayo and Feinberg threw out in like around the Super Bowl to get on Danny Willett. His odds were as high as 150-1. What was Danny Willett at that point? He was the 12th ranked golfer in the world. And it was one of those bets that just didn't make any sense. So I got on that one back then, and I'm going to have Harris English on the card as well. The only one other player that I'll talk about a little bit more that I didn't include as an outright that I will also have a little sprinkle on is Tommy Fleetwood. And Tommy Fleetwood, the number we've got at Fleetwood at CoolBet is, from what I've seen, significantly better than a lot of the other books. Tommy Fleetwood's generally in and around 40-1 right now for this event. CoolBet's got him at 49-1. Forgot to put that in. That's sort of in the middle of the elites and the real long shots, about a 50-1 bet on Tommy Fleetwood. He was the runner-up in 2019 at Royal Portrush. There's another guy, an English guy, built to win the Open Championship. So I do have a top bet on him, but I will just quickly add, I didn't put that in, Fleetwood at 49-1. I think also a great number at CoolBet and a guy that'll be on my card.
Yeah, well, I don't want to spoil any of mine there, but a couple of those names that you did say might end up on my card as well. Before we get into my card, though, let's check in on some of the viewers in the comments. Shane says he loves the play. Sign me up for English. So he loves the English play, and he also says he loves Brooks this weekend. So obviously,
Shane, let's go. Let's get some winners, Shane. We're on the same wavelength, dude.
There we go. So Shane from Going for Two podcast definitely agrees with us on that one there. So I did just say us, so maybe I did just spoil one of my outrights, but we'll get right into it now. Brooks Koepka.
Riding with Brooks, Greggy. That's right. Let's go.
All the way. I think last time we were both on Brooksy as well, but I just, you've said enough, and I don't think we can really need to beat a dead horse here, but you can't deny the fact that this is a guy, when the majors come, when the brights shine the brightest, he dials it in, and that's when he plays his best golf. He has some great finishes at the Open, finished T4 in 2019, T6 in 2017, and T10 in 2015. So he's got the pedigree, he's got the previous experience. He obviously has the recent form with 3 top 5 finishes in his last 5 starts, and 2 of them were in majors. So Brooks has 4 majors already, and he's yet to win an Open, and he is hungry to add the claret jug to his trophy mantle. So I'm locking in Brooks at 17-1. I'm not as lucky as you are getting him in at 20-1, but that just shows you, Huss, how important it is to get your picks in early. If you see something you like, hammer it, because there's a good chance that number is going away.
Hey, just on that, Pat, before and when it comes to these majors, and you sort of learn this the hard way over a few years. I mean, the week before the tournament, the odds are always up. There's always a major recalibration on the Monday after the previous tournament finishes. And we saw it big time with the number of those players going up to 20, and then everything shakes out. More often than not, with the small exception of a few players, the best time and the best numbers you are going to get are early in the week of the tournament. And then again, if you're on a guy that no one else is, maybe that will go up. But for a player like Brooks Koepka, even a guy like Xander or Jordan Spieth, the best number out there was sort of in that Monday, Tuesday range. And, you sort of see the trends and the momentum that certain players are getting in the betting markets when that number goes down. And to be honest, your next guy, Jordan Spieth, another one, 20-1 when you put that in yesterday. Lots of people liking Spieth. He's down to 19-1 as we get going today.
There you go. So the line movement has already moved on Spieth, and for good reason. And everyone, and credits due, no doubt, John Rahm, Everyone talks about him being the best player on tour right now, the best player of this season. But if you look from the start of 2021, it's actually been Spieth who has been the best golfer on tour based on strokes gained per round. And Rick Gaiman of rickrungood.com, if you go on his website, awesome breakdown of analytics. He's actually gained 1.98 strokes per round. His style of play as well matches links golf so perfect. You hear all the talk about having to be creative when it comes to playing the link style courses because there's never a proper lie. Scrambling is important, putting is important, and finding the fairway sometimes isn't really that important because you could hit the fairway and it bumps out and then goes into the rough anyways. And luckily for Jordan Spieth, probably his weakest facet of the game is finding the fairway. So that might not actually hurt him all that much this week. So I think that we had a lot of hype with him at the start of the season, him being back. A couple of majors have passed, and we haven't quite seen him come back and get that major again. I think there's a really, really good opportunity we could see Spieth get that major victory that we haven't seen him get in a few years. And then the other ones, you mentioned both these names already, so I won't go too much, but Tommy Fleetwood, you just go back to the 2019 Open Championship, and that was just such a crushing loss. He shot a 74 on the Sunday, just wasn't able to capitalize on Shane Lowry, who kind of had a bad Sunday as well. Obviously, him being an Englishman, he knows how to play links golf. And this maybe might be a little bit of a sucker play for me, just being a fan of, the narratives. But wouldn't that not be a nice story to see Fleetwood get back into contention on Sunday and kind of slay the Dragons? Because he's played pretty well in the last few weeks. He looked good at the Scottish and the Irish Open, and he's the type of guy very similar to Tony Finau. He's always been the bride, has never been the guy to get it done, right? So I think this might be the opportunity, and it might be a little bit of a prayer, but at 49-1, I really like it. And I won't go too much on Cam Smith because that's your boy. You've pumped his tires since we've started these shows. But I will say, I don't know if you can see the lettuce coming through. It's not quite a mullet. It's not quite a mullet. But at 74-1, with a little bit of the hair coming out of the back of my hat, I'm going with Cam Smith as well. Yeah,
we're on the same page on a few of these, and I got to give a shout out to the guys in the 18 Over Par podcast. Jumped on with those guys earlier this week. They're mentioning, what about the oldos, Westy and Usti? Like Lee Westwood. Lee Westwood has been contending this year, and I mean, hell, if Phil Mickelson can win the PGA, I mean, maybe the only thing that could top that would be Lee Westwood winning the Open Championship, finally getting it done. Where's Westy? Westy right now is 69-1. Again, I wouldn't at all be surprised if he contends, winning it, maybe not. And I mean, as far as Usti goes, I mean, can we just bet top two? Because I mean, he seems to be, you want to talk about bridesmaids. I mean, he now has the Grand Slam of runner-ups in these majors. And, you wonder how it hasn't happened before. That being said, I'm not on Usti right now. He's at 34-1. Right there with some of, the other top players, Bryson DeChambeau and Pat Cantlay. And you just wonder how much scar tissue there is from his recent runner-up. So not on either of those guys, but certainly worth mentioning when we're talking about outrights. And I would be surprised if we weren't talking at some point in the tournament about one of those guys sniffing around the top of the leaderboard.
Well, I won't give away too much, but you may see one of those names on my card a little bit later in the show. So, Huss, top five. You have just one, but it is Brooks Koepka. I don't know if we really need to go into too much. But I just wanted to say the one thing I really like doing here as well is, and I've said it before, but, if you do pick an outright, why not just also sprinkle the top five as well? Because you would hate to see, Brooks play well, be in contention, and the only thing you have is a ticket for him to win, and he finishes, top three, top four, and even top five.
Yeah. To me, I mean, the reason why I only have one on is any of these other guys could win the tournament or, could finish well back. Brooks Koepka is going to be there on Sunday. I mean, I firmly believe that. And Listen, could John Rahm, get him by a couple strokes on the back nine? Yeah, sure. But again, at plus 350, I mean, if they're by far, I have more confidence in Koepka than any other player, and I'll put Rahm in that category as well, to be right there on the back nine. So to me, it's just a single bullet. It's Brooks Koepka at plus 350. You add that in with the 17-1 on the win. Man, you hit them both. He wins the tournament. You're really laughing. But if he does fall just short, you can still get a pretty nice payout, kind of backing your to win bet with a top five. And the other guys, it's more value. Could they win the tournament? Yes. Brooks Koepka, to me, is the most sure thing of the super elites, and that's why he's my lone bullet for the top five.
Yeah, I love it. I'll probably end up adding Brooks top five as well too. But my one top five, I didn't go with any of the guys that I have outrights, and it's a guy that I usually sprinkle in outright. But you know what? I had to keep him off my card, give him a little bit of a suspension from the outright. So you know what this means. He's probably going to win this week. But like I said, it wouldn't be a cool bet stream without me talking about Viktor Hovland. And he's a guy that, it seems every week he makes strides, then has a little bit of a setback, and then makes strides again. So, he's coming off a European Tour victory just a couple of weeks ago. He had an unfortunate withdraw at the U.S. Open. I think it was a bunker shot. He got sand in his eye, and he had
self-inflicted.
Yeah, I mean, mind you, he wasn't really playing great the day before, but still, nonetheless, a freak accident. You hate to see it. But he's an elite ball striker. He's great off the tee. His short game has improved immensely. I think he can contend. And if you think he can contend, then having him at a top five is certainly a no-brainer for me, especially at plus 550.
Yeah, listen, I mean, big fan of Vic. Haven't had him on my card, but you mentioned him getting back overseas, winning. He seems to be in form, and listen, I would happily make a bet that Viktor Hovland wins a major in the next 2 or 3 years. Whether it's going to happen this soon, I'm not sure, but he's certainly a guy that could be in the mix contending on the back nine at Royal St. George's.
All right, next up, top tens, Huss. Who do you like?
Yeah, well, I'm going to go with a couple different guys, and I'll be honest, I gave a long thought to putting Pat Cantlay on my outrights. He's another guy that is just so uber talented and sort of, for a top player at times flies underneath the radar. He's also a guy that we associate with playing in the United States, and I think maybe that has affected his number a little bit more at 34-1. But we've seen him gradually improve his Open Championship performance, finishing 12th before. I think he had the top 20 and then top 12. To me, the next step for Pat Cantlay is contending on the weekend and pushing into the top 10. So at plus 265, I like Cantlay. And listen, I won't recap everything you said about Jordan Spieth, but you'd be an idiot not to consider Jordan Spieth and what he's able to do, the way that he's played this year, the entire turnaround of his game, which is, even if you're not a fan of Jordan Spieth, you have to admit it is great for golf. And he's a player that's won the Claret Jug before, and he does have a unique style of game, especially when it comes to the scrambling and getting out of trouble, which is so important at this tournament, and Spieth does that almost as well as anyone. So I'll slide Spieth in at plus 185 for a top 10 as well.
Obviously, I like that. If I like Spieth to win, I obviously like him to finish in the top 10. But my top 10s, there you go, Oosthuizen and Rahm. And these are two completely different plays. I'll start off with Oosthuizen. We already kind of talked about it, so I won't go too long, but he is just an animal when it comes to finishing high at the majors. It's just he hasn't always been able to get it done, but he's always in the mix. He has 8 top 10 finishes in majors, and that includes winning the Open back in 2010 and a T2, surprise, in 2015. His form has been great as of late, and actually, interesting enough, when I was diving into some of the analytics, he's the best putter on tour this season. And as you know, when it comes to the Open, putting is going to be so key. So at plus 260, a guy that has made his bread and butter finishing in the top 2, I'm not a math guy, but top 2 also finishes in the top 10. So I've got a little bit of wiggle room here at him for plus 260. That's a good idea. I'm going to talk to our guys and see if we can get a Louis Oosthuizen to finish T2. That's a really good idea.
I mean, you know, and it's a nice little prop. Everyone knows that he certainly has done it over and over again. And, you know, you could just put him in on top 5. You'll get a better number for top 2. And heck, exactly. If he wins, you got a backup plan. But if he's there, you know, I still can't believe that shot that he hit on 17 that cost him. I mean, after being absolutely nails for 70 holes for that to happen. But that just goes to show you, even incredible former major winner like Oosthuizen can, you know, feel the nerves when it counts, when you're going down those final holes with so much at stake and so much on the line.
And not to get too sidetracked here, but he also did the same thing at the Zurich Classic earlier in the season too, in that playoff where he just absolutely hit his tee shot and cost him and his partner at that tournament there. So, but with that being said, though, he does not have to win for me here. He just has to finish in the top 10. And with his track record, I feel really good. And I mean, speaking of guys who have great track records, the guy right now, hottest on tour, is Jon Rahm. And I don't normally like laying this much juice for any of these types of bets, but I mean, Jon Rahm has been absolutely automatic all the way back to the fall Masters of last year. He's finished in the top 10 8 times in his last 13 events. And that's not even including the Memorial, where he was basically cakewalking to the finals and then had to get withdrawn due to COVID-19. So that would have been another one there. So the guy has been unstoppable. He's been on an unbelievable run. And I know I'm not taking him to win this week, but you and I both know we would not be surprised for him to do it again. I think we have a chance here to see quite the impressive run of majors and being in contention from Jon Rahm. But so, you know, seeing it at minus 118, yes, seeing that minus number in front of it might be a little bit, you know, weird to see. But just the way he's been playing in the last almost year, it almost seemed too automatic for me.
Yeah, listen, granted, there's a bit of sticker shock when you see the price for a top 10 for Jon Rahm, but you laid it out, dude. No one is getting rich fading Jon Rahm on the PGA Tour this year. And, you know, we talked about the value that maybe wasn't there on the number when we were talking US Open, and it didn't matter. He still went out and won it. So, yeah, pretty hard to make a case against Jon Rahm as a top 10 player at Royal St. George's.
Absolutely. Let's pop over before we get into, actually, no, we'll get to the comments after. Let's get rolling. We're on a roll here because we still have to finish the top. So let's get into your top 20. And well, I mean, Fleetwood's there, but there's another new name there that you want to talk about. I'm not going to say it because I always mess it up too.
Yes. The South African Christian Bezuidenhout.
There we go.
Yeah, not bad, eh? Plus 265 for Bezuidenhout. And, you know, this is a guy that has played all around the world, winners of the Scottish Open. And to be honest, his form is just sort of, you know, he's been plodding along. But, you know, he was tied for 31st at the US Open. And, you know, on a course and a challenge like that, to be able to contend, to be in that area shows that, you know, you're able to do it. And as I said, I think a lot even for players like South Africans, certainly talk to Oosty, there is, you know, a level of familiarity with some of these European style links courses that I just think provides good value. This is a guy, he's definitely under the radar, but you see him pop up and contend, you know, in a number of tournaments with really strong fields. So, you know, considering what he did at the Open, he tied for 23rd at the Irish Open, was 44th at the Scottish Open last week. So, I mean, his form is there. He's certainly making cuts and sort of pushing in. I think, you know, if a couple more things go well for Bezuidenhout, we could be talking about him as a top 20. So he made the card. And as I said, I would support Tommy Fleetwood on top 10s. I would support Tommy Fleetwood on top 20. We mentioned the value that he has at Coolbet as an outright is the best number I've seen right now at 49-1. I would be stunned if Tommy Fleetwood wasn't around on Sunday. So even at plus 165, which is a little lower for a top 20 than some of the guys in his area code there on the odds board, I think there's a reason for that. People are counting on Tommy Fleetwood having a strong tournament and being there on Sunday. So those are the two guys I like on the top 20.
Absolutely. And I think he's maybe even had a couple of top 10s this year. I know for sure one, I think at the Arnold Palmer, he finished in the top 10. But anyways, I like those two plays there. Again, I picked Fleetwood in a couple of spots here, and I'll hop into my top 20s here. As you can see, Fleetwood, I'm on him as well, and Harris English. You mentioned both those guys already, so we won't go too deep into that, but I do like both those plays. So before we get into our exotics, we'll just quickly remind everyone, retweet the stream our first tweet, retweet it, share, or on Facebook, you can share that tweet to your timeline, or if you're on YouTube, copy and paste that link to any of your social medias, and you'll get entered to win a 75 cool bet bonus. So let's go back to our comments because they're buzzing right now. And again, our friend Shane has another question here, and he wants to know, Brooks, a group winner A at plus 425, good enough value. So I'm just going to pull up the group right now so people at home that don't have the page open right now. It is Rahm, Schauffele, Koepka, Thomas, and McIlroy. That is an absolute wagon of a group. But obviously you and I are very heavy on Koepka. So would you consider maybe sprinkling that, or is that not enough for you there?
Yeah, no, I would. I would. And, if you think about winning this group is more than a top 5. And again, you could finish in the top 5 and Jon Rahm could win the tournament and you don't make this one. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm surprised that Xander Schauffele is a lower number than Brooks.
Yeah.
I mean, I would offer that there's good value there. I mean, to me, this group comes down to the two guys we've talked about, Jon Rahm and Brooks Koepka. I know, would I be surprised if Xander's pretty consistent when it comes to these events. So, could he be in the mix? Sure. Sort of out on Justin Thomas. And as I said, I think Rory McIlroy could absolutely do it. And I think there's value in him at 24-1 to win the entire tournament. But when I think about this group, to me, it's Rahm, it's Koepka. 425. I think I could, I'm not holding my nose making that bet. I actually feel pretty good about it. Again, Jon Rahm could absolutely win. He's plus 185 in this group for a reason. But I don't know. Should Brooks Koepka be more than twice as much as Jon Rahm? I don't think so. So, I'm with you, Shane. Plus 425. Let's go.
It's more value, like you said, than his plus 350 for a top 5. So definitely something to think about. And as we've always said, with these big tournaments, with the majors, there are a ton of markets you can dive into. So why not dive into them now and take a look at our exotic plays? And Huss, we'll start off with yours. And you've got a couple good ones. I'm not going to lie. I mean, you always do, but I really like a few of these plays here.
All right. Well, starting off with the top Canadians, the top Canadian in the event. And these are always fun. You get your different group. There's top Scandinavian, top Aussie, top South African. But I love Corey Connors in this position. There's 4 Canadians in the tournament. Connors, Mac Hughes, Adam Hadwin, and Richard T. Lee. Richard T. Lee is 8-1. I'll be honest, I don't know much about Richard T. Lee other than he's from Toronto, and he qualified through his playing on the Asian Tour. And, every now and then, I remember Hao Tong Lee a few years ago. I mean, you have these Asian players that we're really not familiar with at all in North America that all of a sudden show up and do well. So I'll be paying attention to Richard T. Lee, but and listen, 8-1 is a pretty interesting number when you're only talking about 4 other guys. Adam Hadwin, I'm out on. I love Hadwin, but he's remaking his swing. He has been incredibly inconsistent this year, and I don't think that bodes well for him going into this tournament. So to me, we're talking about really a 2-horse race between Mac Hughes and Corey Connors. And Connors got out there early, has been training. So on interview with him yesterday on TSN, feeling very well and feeling like it was time well spent getting out there early and preparing for this tournament. And Mac Hughes has very little experience playing in Europe, playing the links golf. And the crazy thing about Mac is that when he gets hot, he will sink putts from the other hole. I mean, like sometimes there's just something wild going on with Mac. I think that's a lot more likely to happen in maybe a bit more of a comfortable situation and scenario. And I'll give a shout out to our boy, a good friend of mine, Derek Ingram from Winnipeg, who is also coaching the guys, Team Canada national coach. He did a picture out with all of the guys together. It was always cool to see the Canadians at the majors get on it. But I'm on Corey Connors. I think his game, and I think the preparation that he's done and just where he's at, especially with this ball striking, and it is going to be so important in tournaments like this, just to avoid trouble to begin with and allow yourself to make pars. So I really like Connors at plus 110 to be the top Canadian. The other bet that I've got is the top lefty. And this is an interesting one. I'm just going to get this one up again because, you don't have a huge group. There's 4 guys out. Bobby Mack, Robert McIntyre is the favorite at plus 210. You got Brian Harman at 285. Higo at plus 285. And of course, there's Phil, who was, I believe, the runner-up 10 years ago when this tournament was last held at Royal St. George and Darren Clark won the event. I mean, Phil's probably a fun bet to make and not bad at plus 325. But I really think that Garrick Higo is the guy to put down on this one. Now, won on the PGA Tour and only his second start earlier this year, has had a really strong form coming into this event. And of course, another South African that, has maybe more experience than some of the other guys in this mix. Although when we're talking about Robert McIntyre there, I think Brian Harman maybe suffers a little bit because of the lack of consistent experience on these holes. So just with the way Higo has played this year so far, I think his form is excellent coming into this tournament. So I did like Higo at plus 285. And also just for fun, no hole in one. That's always a fun one to sweat out. Sometimes, someone will sink one on Thursday morning and you don't have to worry about it. But we'll see whether we can make it to the end. That one did click for the US Open. We got that. So we'll go back to it and get plus money on no hole in one for the tournament. And I guess my final one that you've got up there is to miss the cut. And I talked about Adam Hadwin. I think his form and just what he's doing with the swing, this ain't the place to try to refigure out how you're doing it. I think it could be very tough for Adam Hadwin to be there on Saturday and Sunday. So I'm going to take minus 111 on Hadwin to miss the cut. But the one that might surprise people is Operation Fade Bryson DeChambeau. And listen, it's fun to cheer against Bryson. Some people love him. I'm a Brooks guy, as we know. I'm betting on him. I don't think DeChambeau is going to be around for the weekend. He's been through a lot over the last little while, splitting up with the caddy, missing the cut, leaving. I mean, it just this is not great timing for Bryson DeChambeau to be going across the pond with a new guy on the bag who apparently works for him. He's his agent or something like that. I mean, this is probably the one guy that can just handle DeChambeau for that long and doesn't mind spending that time with him. But the other thing is, listen, he's got the incredible driver, but so much of these British Open courses is what you do when you're in trouble and the ability to, take care of, a hole when you don't make a great shot. Now, you said, the width, the rough, depending on where you go, could be problematic, could not be. But when it comes down to just that elite short game and getting out of trouble, I don't have a lot of confidence in Bryson where he's at right now. So, it's a big number. Obviously, this is an upset pick. At plus 259 to miss the cut. But I'm in on it. I am fading Bryson DeChambeau. He's on my to miss the cut list at plus 259 along with Adam Hadwin.
So Adam Hadwin to miss the cut at minus 111 and Bryson DeChambeau at plus 259. I don't know if you saw today, but someone called him Brooksy in the press conference. I don't know if it was a troll job or I'm assuming it was, but it was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
Well, just on that, the other thing, Koepka, I believe, was talking to Bob Weeks about being teammates with DeChambeau at the Ryder Cup. And it was hilarious. He goes, listen, we're playing an event like this. I can be teammates with anybody for a week. But put it this way, they're not going to be playing us together. We won't be playing together. So Pretty funny. We'll see. We'll see whether both of those guys are around on the weekend I mean, listen, I would be more than happy to lose my bet on DeChambeau missing the cut if it meant that we could get Brooks and Bryson in a pairing, better yet on Sunday of a major. I mean, that's what everybody wants to see, Pat.
That's what the networks want to see as well. So maybe fingers crossed. That would be a good consolation if your bet doesn't cash there. So I'll go into my exotics. And for this week, Huss, we have something a little bit special for mine. So the folks at CoolBet did me a little favor here, and we have a couple of boosted odds parlays called the Greggy's Golf Specials. So either Jordan Spieth or Brooks Koepka to win the tournament at plus 900. All you have to do is go to our requested odds tab, and you'll click that there, and you'll see this bet here. And then you'll also see my second exotic play, Koepka, Spieth, Connors, and Fleetwood to make the cut at plus 235. So I love those. Obviously, they're my boosted plays. Huss, next tournament, we're going to have to get you some boosted odd ones as well. I've already been talking to Chris. We're going to get the partner parlay. We're going to get that boosted odds as well.
Nice,
so
nice.
We're starting to get more of these promo parlays done, and I'm excited for this. With my history with these tournaments, maybe we should have had an option to fade my picks, but hey, we'll see. I really like both these ones. I know you're very high, obviously, on Brooks, and you think Spieth will be in the mix there.
Yeah. No, listen, I love that. I think there's good value at it. I mean, when you consider that, one is 17, one is 19 right now, so you're getting both of those guys. And I'll tell you what, I love the all make the cut. I mean, that's one thing that I know CoolBet is making some improvements to the site. And I think in the future, maybe for next season, we might be able to go in and essentially make our own make the cut or miss the cut parlay. But these are all guys that we've talked about. I love Connors to be the top Canadian. We've got Spieth as a top 10. I like Koepka to win, and I think Tommy Fleetwood's going to be there. I am 100% riding with Greggy's Exotics on this one at plus 235. I'll be making that as soon as this show has completed, Pat.
Absolutely. I love it. And we are just about done here, folks. So we want to thank you guys for tuning in. Of course, we will continue this contest for another couple of hours. So you can always go back, watch the stream, whether it be on YouTube, Facebook, or on Twitter. So retweet that tweet that's on our timeline right now, and you'll get a chance to win $75. And it's going to be more than just one person who's winning here as well. So, Huss, before we get going, any final thoughts?
Well, cannot wait to get going. Seeing, I guess it'll be a late shift. You may have to juggle your sleeping schedule accordingly. Maybe take a couple days off and go completely nocturnal and watch it all night. One of my favorite tournaments of the year. This course is incredible. And I think we're going to have some of the top guys in the world going at it for that Claret Jug. And I will also remember a great addition to CoolBet for the last couple majors has been live odds update. And who knows? I mean, we may be really reconsidering picks we've made going into the tournament, but the good thing is you can still get in on it. So suggest to people get back to CoolBet throughout the tournament for live updated odds, as well as rejigged odds after all of the rounds. It doesn't get any better than the majors, especially when you got a couple dogs in the hunt. And hopefully we will be hunting on Sunday afternoon, Pat.
Absolutely. I can't wait for it. And as Huss said, remember, time zone difference. So watch this, consider your picks, get those picks in before you go to bed, because unless you set an alarm to wake up right at midnight, you're not getting these picks in. So don't forget, get your picks in early and often. And of course, remember, lots of other sports going on at CoolBet right now. I know, Huss, you're a big CFL guy. We've got our CFL futures up there. We've got some NFL futures, some NHL futures. The NBA is still going on in the finals, game 4 tonight. So a lot of great specials there. And of course, obviously the usual props and odds for the games as well. And Huss, before I get you going, Winnipeg Sports Talk. What's going on for this week? Any British Open talk, or sorry, the Open talk?
Yes, no, we will certainly hit the Open Championship with some finals. And Feinberg was on fire for June. I think he hit winners in 3 or 4 tourneys. So he's going to jump on towards the end of tomorrow's show. We'll get his final selections for the tournament, talk a little bit more about some of the content that we've discussed today, and then get into it. And just quickly on the golf betting, of course, we'll have the FedEx Cup playoffs going forward. I mean, those really will sort of feel like, it's not a major, but the stakes are so high. The top players are all there. There'll still be some great betting opportunities. And I don't know if I told you, but I won the lottery for Ryder Cup tickets. So
come on,
Ryder Cup, baby, at the end of September. Still, I mean, hopefully the damn border will be open, but I got my shot. It should be able to make this happen.
There you go. That's unreal.
We'll do something, and obviously there'll be incredible markets for the Ryder Cup when we get to the end of September. So do something like that before hitting the road. But and it is the final major of the year, but there still is some incredible golf to come. And lots of our favorite wagering options over at Coolbet Canada. This is a lot of fun, Pat. Thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's awesome. That's a bucket list item for me for sure. So enjoy that. And also, I forgot to mention too, the Olympics just around the corner. There will be Olympics golf as well too. You ever heard of it? So maybe we'll have to do an Olympics preview show as well too. So I know there's a lot of big names in that field. So looking forward to that. But Haas, thanks for coming on. As always, everyone, we want to thank you for watching. Remember, you can make all your plays for the Open or anything sports related at coolbet.com. For myself and Andrew Hustler Paterson, we want to thank you for tuning in. And as always, stay cool.